All right. We got two of the masterminds here. You want to take it away, man?
Yes. Alrighty. What's going on, everybody? We're post San Diego / LA Chargers matchup. The worst football game I think I've seen all season long. It was somehow worse than the first matchup. We watched Jarrett Stidham and the backup quarterback go up against Ethan Stick and the backup quarterback under a more incompetent interim head coach than what they had before. It was just a hurt. I stopped watching at halftime. Nobody's watching that. Bronco fans, they're pounding their chests, talking about how Russell Wilson is the biggest villain to the Broncos, even though 2 weeks ago time, they were calling him the comeback player of the year, saying he should be an MVP, saying he was better than Patrick Mahomes.
Who's saying he's a bum now? So we get a beat on this. Is it the content creators?
Content creators, the front office, the Broncos organization itself, and Russell Wilson. I mean, we said when he was traded here, all the way back when the trade happened, when you guys were cheerleading it, saying we finally found our franchise quarterback, we finally found the guy. This is the guy. First off, Denver Bronco Mile High View said it would be a matter of time before you guys turned on him, and you did. You did turn on him. You did a complete 180 in 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, you'd think he was the second coming of Tom Brady if you were talking to the average Broncos fan. Now it's hatred towards Russell Wilson, even though this isn't his fault. It is to some degree, but where he ended up, he should have never ended up. Yeah. Where he ended up was the doing of the front office. It was the doing of the previous trust that was here. One of those members is still lurking around in the shadows, as you can tell, because Russell Wilson, classic scapegoat. The question is, the front office, the PR department is scapegoating Russell Wilson. That's straight from the front office. Will ownership step in and get rid of these guys? Because ownership seems to be pretty upset with this deal, seems to be upset that, John Elway, Joe Ellis, and that front office signed off on a contract worth $250 million, giving them $142 million guaranteed, without their blessing, without their spending money that wasn't theirs before they even had a say in doing it. So they're pretty upset with that. Ownership, you should be using the energy you're having Sean Payton, because Sean Payton threatened to bench Russell Wilson if he didn't waive his injury clause. And my problem with that is Russell Wilson didn't write the contract. Your front office did. So you should be firing those front office people should have been gone last year. Once you stepped in, once you had ownership of the team, once it was the Walton and Penner show, should have been gone. Should have been the first thing you did. Then you could have dealt with Russell Wilson at the end of the season. But now you let it go for a year, and here you are. Now you've made a mess. You've probably violated some kind of employment law by threatening to bench him if he didn't waive the injury clause. And if Russell Wilson wants to take it a step further, he'll probably seek legal counsel, probably see what laws were violated, and you guys will probably be held accountable for not only what you owe him, but for whatever he gets out of a potential lawsuit. I mean, not that we expect anything different out of a Walmart conglomerate, but I mean, it's an absolute mess over there. But the complete 180 that this fan base has done in a matter of 3 weeks is absolutely insane. And you guys are, quite frankly, a part of the problem. You guys are the reason Drew Lock got ran out of town, the reason Trevor Siemian got ran out of town, the reason Case Keenum was ran out of town, the reason Joe Flacco, oh, by the way, how's Joe Flacco doing right now, was ran out of town, the same reason Teddy Bridgewater's ran out of town, and now Russell Wilson has run out of town. And Russell Wilson, he's handled it professionally. He's been handling this well. Don't know how you can show up to your job knowing that they're going to threaten you into waiving a clause in your contract with your job, even though objectively he wasn't playing that poorly. Was it really Russell Wilson's fault that you lost to the Patriots? Was it Russell Wilson who coughed up the ball at the goal line, giving the Patriots a go-ahead touchdown? Was it really Russell Wilson who, after he threw the game-tying 2-point conversion and the game-tying touchdown, 2 key drives when it mattered the most, was it really his fault that the defense let the Patriots get into field goal range? Was it really Russell Wilson's fault that you guys looked like the defense you did against the Dolphins, against the Lions? Was it really his fault? No. But on the contrary, he also wasn't the because you guys, when you were winning 5 games straight, we're talking about how great Russell Wilson was. He's the greatest thing since the spread. He's the next Tom Brady. His numbers are on point with Mahomes. Now you're saying those same numbers are because he was throwing check down. So you completely did a 180 there. And no, you are 8-9 or 8-8 right now because 12 men on the field, coughing the ball up, easy schedule, injuries, backup quarterbacks, and referee help. And the best you're going to do is 9-8. And I know that front office is happy, but this is probably the worst season we could imagine. This is the worst case scenario for me because it gives that front office room to linger around for more time to come.
So I got a question for you. I agree with you about the graveyard of quarterbacks. You can't, at some point the front office has to be held accountable. And this new ownership's handling of Russell Wilson, to be honest with you, is really bizarre. It's strange. So let me ask you this question. Do you think Russell Wilson is worth $250 million?
No.
I think that is the point of contention that's apparently. Now, I sent you a podcast with Sandy Clough, a local radio guy, was talking about the front office, the current owners, that people have been, everybody there, you couldn't believe anything they say. It's just lying all the time. I just, by looking at their actions, it's almost as if, now, remember, at that time that broadcast came out, Sandy Clough was saying that the owners want nothing to do with Russell Wilson. And probably because of that, the $250 million that they weren't a part of, I hate to break this to you, but when Elway and Ellis brokered that deal, it was in March of 2022. There was no ownership at that time. And the only way you could get Russell Wilson to budge out of that no trade clause, that was Russell Wilson's no trade clause. It wasn't Seattle's no trade clause. Because they had to come up with a number and agree to it then and there so he would be traded. That was his, I'll pick the team I get to go to because they have to meet this criteria, which was the 5-year contract. I believe, because what happened is when the owner signed the check for the Denver Broncos, we're taking the Denver Broncos, we have to take in all the debt. We have to take in all the contracts as they are. And I think that, they saw that $250 million. I think they were hopping mad from the start. But their actions are bizarre. Why would you keep Elway there with a scooter? Let's ride when the schedule comes out. All this. I can only imagine that they were like, Elway put them in a bad situation where they were in a catch-22. We can't just cut this thing because we'll have a real bad circus on our hand. We'll have to let it go a year. They let it go a year, and they were like, my God, 200. We weren't there to negotiate. This isn't what we want. So they're taking it out on Russell Wilson, which makes no sense. I'll be honest with you. I got to be honest with you about something. I can't even see cutting him outright, only as a statement, like, no, I don't, you're making a statement. I just don't understand why you would go to Russell Wilson and say you'll bench him when this was during the Kansas City time. This is when that Kansas City, the first win with Kansas City, the second Kansas City game. That's the same time Sandy Clough that came out that the Broncos were already done with him and moving on. So apparently that was true. They basically said that we're moving on from you. Essentially, wouldn't you agree that if you go to Russell Wilson and ask him to, the teams ask quarterbacks to restructure contracts. There's nothing but the way they handled it, like we're going to bench you at that point in the season. And I believe it was Sean Payton that actually stuck up for, I don't know if just himself more so, or for Russell Wilson as well. And I think they talked the owners off the ledge to just bench Russell Wilson outright. We got to let him play out because we could be in a playoff run. It's still, it's possible. As soon as it became a non-issue, the Broncos' possibility of not going to the playoffs. Well, first of all, the owners should have never came up to Russell Wilson with that. They should have let the season play out, and fine, if it came to the point where you're not going to make the playoffs, you could say, Russ, come here. Because of your contract, we're going to have you take a break. We'll work on it next year. But because of your contract, we can't afford you. We're not going to let you get injured. If Stidham work gets us in the playoffs, maybe we bring you back or whatever, I could understand that, but it's just almost as if like they're trying to make a point with Russell Wilson. So it seems to me, I guess it's a foregone conclusion. They're just going to cut him out to show everybody who the boss is around there.
Yeah, it could be their first power move in the organization, but cutting Russell Wilson, what's that going to solve? If you keep the people who brokered the deal, if you keep the people who have been making the last decisions for the last 8 years, it doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. So if Russell Wilson's going to go, fine. But I also want to see John Elway gone. I also want to see his nephew gone. I want to see that whole front office vacant.
George Payton
all truck out there on Monday after they lose. I think they'll lose that Raider game, to be honest with you.
I'm counting on that being a loss too.
Yeah, so after that Raider game, I want U-Haul trucks outside of Dove Valley and everybody packing their stuff and leaving. If you guys are serious about this thing, if this is just more front office bullshit of blaming the quarterback like we've seen for the last 8 years, then this ownership is just in the Elway and front office bandwagon. But there's a different energy to it. This organization all year long has shown this tug of war happening between several parties. So
that was brought up too in that podcast that Sandy Clough was in. That the old Elway people, they hate the owner and Sean Payton. Well, Sean Payton and the owner are like this because Penner, it wasn't George Payton. People, it was not George Payton. Penner went on the plane, brokered the deal for Sean Payton. Okay, George just was there, introducing him
as he's been this whole time in Denver.
The time he was hired, yeah.
But if you're going to get rid of Russell Wilson, that's fine. But you also need to have the people who brought him in and all these other players on this roster and all those other contracts like Garrett Bowles, like McGlinchey. That's another deal that should have never went through, but it did. That was also, what do you guys do? No, I think that one was when the owners were here, but still, No,
that was. But who Elway's nephew is the scout. He's the pro scout. He's the one bringing Gregory in, McGlinchey in. He's bringing all the pros in. He's the pro scout, and they're all a bunch of has-beens, used to be's, retreads. And in this game, I watched the condensed version, and when it was over, and I found it very interesting now that the Russell Wilson politics is out of it. They were throwing the flags for the obvious holds that they weren't throwing while they were in that playoff hunt kind of thing. And just to be honest with you, they let it go across the board. So, but it's just it's like a Band-Aid league. They need every team seems to need all the help they can get just to score points. I don't even care about seeing the greatest show on turf, a Kansas City 40-point game. I just want to see good football. Some games may be a 40, some games may be a 20, some games may only be single digits, but they're hellacious defenses go. I mean, I don't want just one monolithic kind of football, Shermer ball, and it's not even that's low percentage football. I mean, I think these content creators you were saying, I see is a lot of hate towards Sean Payton. I see hate towards Sean Payton for not going Shermer ball. It was all Sean Payton's fault because Russell Wilson isn't a bombs away Kurt Warner quarterback. He never was he never was that. It was you people in the media hyping this whole thing up. And we said when Elway and Ellis went to make the deal with Russell Wilson on that $250 million 5-year extension, that's the only way he would remove the trade clause, the no trade clause. When that deal went down, the NFL should have said, we got to put a freeze on this. We got to put a freeze, and it's only is it. I mean, this whole, and they should have made it public that this, but they hyped up the deal. They didn't step in. They hyped up the deal, and it turned into this. I said, I was just in the last video, I was just telling Bucket Man, I said, when the deal went down, I said the owners aren't involved in this. Whoever the owners, because nobody knew who the owners were going to be. It was March. Nobody had no idea who the owners were going to be. There were some people in the running, right? But nobody really knew. I said, if they're not involved in this, which they were completely shut off of this. The announcement came in the August about the 5-year when they were in, because that they just announced it, but the deal had already been cut in March. But I said, this thing is going to come back and bite Elway and the Broncos in the ass, because if he turns out to be a bust last year, I mean, my God, and I'm sure that left a bad taste in the mouth. And I'll have to be honest with you, while Russell Wilson wasn't bad like last year, in my opinion, he's not a $250 million quarterback. He just isn't. He's serviceable. I mean, but I'm just going to be honest with you. If I wouldn't have known about the quarterback situation, and I'm not around home, and I didn't know about what was going on, I'd look at that game with this last game with the Chargers, knowing that Sutton's out and Mims is out. I would think that Russell Wilson was in the game. At the end of when I just look at the score at the end, I didn't see anything that would make me think that, oh wow, what happened? Russell Wilson must have not been there. Well, I wouldn't have got that impression. So it's. I don't think the owners are handling it correctly. I understand why they'd be pissed off, but I mean, you're stuck with Russell Wilson, in my opinion. You're stuck with him. So, and like you said, he's not doing so bad that you have to cut him no matter what. It just the way they're handling it. It's not good. I mean, what are you proving?
I mean, the NFL and the NFL's media is not happy with how the Broncos are handling it. They're hammering. Well, Sean Payton has taken the brunt of it because Sean Payton was speaking on the behalf of the owners. That wasn't Sean Payton said. Talked him off the ledge because they were going to bench him after the Kansas City game no matter what. The owners came downstairs and were like, you're going to get benched if you don't waive this clause. Russell Wilson said no, he was going to get benched, and Sean Payton probably talked him off the ledge.
I think he talked him off the ledge. I think he said, what are you doing? It's like, you said it, you're treating this guy like a Walmart employee.
Yeah. You can't just pull him in the office and say you're going to do all kinds of, illegal things to people who, like you would with a regular Walmart employee who doesn't make enough money to buy groceries, let alone afford legal counsel to look into the matter. But you're talking to Russell Wilson in the NFL, who does have those resources available to him to be able to hold you accountable. So not only are you jeopardizing, your reputation as an organization, you're also paying that money to Russell Wilson, but you're opening yourself up to more liability right off the bat. Just brought him in the office, sat him down, said, look, this was not our doing. We don't have a future with you. We're going to let you play the rest of the year, and we're going to cut you at the end of the year. We wish you the best of luck. And that's it. Should have been the end of it.
Yeah. If that's what if they were dead set on cutting it, it sounded like that's kind of what they were doing at that point. We're going to cut you now. And it was like, whoa,
Because then there would have been no bad blood. Then there would have been no, but again, the way the fan base treats it, the way the owners have treated it. I mean, Russell Wilson, I'm sorry, as far as the NFL political spectrum goes, he's high up there. So, you doing this, that's why the media is shitting on you guys so hard, is because Russell Wilson, Greg Penner, who do you think's winning that political battle in the eyes of the NFL? It's not even a competition. So,
and I'm just a guy in his mother's basement, okay, right? So I said before, at the end of last season, I said, you got your chance now. This is your chance now. to cut it. If that's what if you were sold this bill of goods, you have a chance now to come clean. Say this deal was brokered in March. We got it, sat on lap. We gave it a year. We're going to move on to a different direction, and then like you said, get the U-Haul trucks, get that front office Elway, get them all out of there, and said we're working on something else. We're bringing in Sean Payton, and then I'm even wondering. It almost gets me wondering if if Penner used Russell Wilson as bait, because remember, even Sean Payton wasn't a shoe-in. He wasn't. They had to keep going back to. Harbaugh wasn't going to have anything to do with this mess, just like Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't going to have anything to do with the mess here. Payton needed some. So I'm just wondering if they dangled Wilson. Look, if you can fix him, they use that instead of saying, we don't like the deal, we don't like the quarterback. I think Sean Payton would have just told him right there, well, then you got to get rid of him, and we'll just have to get who we can and start over. And you need to get everybody else out in the office so I can bring in my own people that we can work together. That's how, at least, I just said at the end of the season, all that, but I'm just a guy in the basement. And I have the wherewithal to know that that's when that all should have been handled. And then Sandy Clough is saying, because he's inside, the Elway people hate, the owners hate Sean Payton and all this. Why did you, I just feel that 200, that contract, if they just, Bridgewater would have been a great quarterback for Sean Payton. We've already seen that. The Broncos would have had draft picks and everything else. This isn't against Russell Wilson, but the deal shouldn't have been made because there was no infrastructure for Wilson. There was no coaching for him. There was no system for him. There was no player personnel for him. It was to satisfy that I'm going to make that last splash move. I'm going to get a 7-year contract. And I believe that Elway was thinking that he could get part ownership if he brought in a big quarterback in a long contract, that he could be here and work his way into an ownership. But I personally don't think they want anything to do with him. I do believe that they were not going to renew his contract. And I think this was his last year. And that's why they all said that he still has an office. I believe that I know Bucket Man we all have to see it to believe it. But I really feel that they're hell-bent on going their own way, right, wrong, or indifferent. And so far, I don't think they're doing a good job of handling the Russell Wilson situation.
Nope. I mean, the ownership, first thing they should have done was come to when they were introduced as the owners, Greg Penner, the first thing he should have said is there's going to be a lot of changes.
Yeah.
What those are, we're going to be they said they're going to be a totally different team in 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
A brand. So whatever that looks like, whether it's relocating, whether it's, getting rid of everybody who's here and rebuilding it in their way, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, like you said, they should have been more transparent with that, of what their plans for the future were. This is your first major move. This is the first tap on the shoulder from the ownership that we've seen, and they did not handle it well. You don't threaten to bench your quarterback unless
I can imagine Pat Bowlen doing that.
Yeah, Bowlen would have never done that. Bowlen knows. But you're handling it like it's a Walmart, like you're a store manager at Walmart, bringing one of your employees into the office, but you don't like them, threatening them. That doesn't work in the NFL. You can't do that. And if you're going to be doing stuff like that, you've already set yourself up as the blacklist of the NFL. Now it's coming out that you guys are going to have to overpay free agents. Well, you've already been having to do that anyway, but it's gotten a lot.
That's Elway's usual. Elway's been doing that. I mean, the list goes. Juwan James on up. Ron Leary, Menelik Watson. I mean, that's nothing new to this organization.
Nope. But you're painting a reputation for yourself as owners. There's 32 franchises, and you're painting that bad image. That's your first impression, and first impressions are everything. So, you guys should have pulled Russell Wilson inside, whether it was at the end of last season, whether it was at the beginning of this season, and said, "Hey, look, we don't like what we saw last year. We have no reason to believe it's different. Obviously, you and Sean Payton, on a system level, do not compute with each other."
That made no sense whatsoever.
Hired Sean Payton, and we're going to bring Sean Payton's people in next year. You're not a part of the plan, unfortunately. We wish you the best. Pay him his money, send him on his merry way. but you go and you threaten to bench him. And I think Sean Payton lashing out at Russell Wilson. I mean, could you imagine it being in Sean Payton's position right now? He has to take the heat for the owners from the players, and then take the heat from the owners from the media.
We warned him. Did we not warn him? Did we not warn Sean Payton? You, of all people, warned him.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking taking this? You're out of your mind. Yeah, the money's good, and you're going to earn every dollar of it because it's going to be a big headache. Dysfunctional owner, dysfunctional former owner. The trust was dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Wilson doesn't fit this system. We fix him. Fix him. That's all you ever heard was fix him. I'm like, and now what were they? They took our talking point. Now they're all saying that the system didn't fit.
You weren't saying that when you signed them. I mean, how many videos do we have? Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson. We're going to reinvent the wheel on offense. Like
we're crazy. You guys don't know what you're talking. You're living your mother's base. Yeah, now everybody's saying what we were saying.
What we've been saying for 2 years. Yeah. All I'm going to say for the Broncos' sake is you better hope they're rebuilding it. And whether I think you're right. I think the ownership has their own agenda, and I think that Russell Wilson isn't a part of it. Sean Payton is every part of it. Whatever that looks like, he's a big part of it. Sean Payton's basically the owner's boots on the ground. Basically, they're the generals. Sean Payton's doing the dirty work. He's infiltrating the locker room. He's infiltrating the front office itself. And you saw that tug of war kind of at the beginning of the season, front office ball versus Sean Payton ball, until after I think the Commanders game was the end of the front office, in my opinion.
Well, there's a lot of complaints going on about Sean Payton. Oh, yeah, that's not. He's not throwing. Sean Payton is not, and Russell Wilson. Both of them are. Russell Wilson's not Kurt Warner, okay, and Sean Payton is not Don Air Coryell. They don't fit those systems. Neither, do you want Kurt Warner? Is that what you're find the next Kurt Warner and the next Torrey Holt? And you're going to have to get an offensive line. And they had a great offensive line and stuff like this. I mean, you're not the Kansas City Chiefs, and Kansas City isn't even the Kansas City Chiefs anymore. I mean, Reed better get a hold of that team. That team's falling apart too, and I think it's going to continue just to go down. Because they're privileged. They've got God and Mahomes, and they've got the goddess herself, Taylor Swift. What more could you possibly ask? You don't have to work hard. You're on the Kansas City Chiefs. You don't have to do what you had to do when Alex Smith was there, when people were busting their ass and there were developing players and this kind of thing. You don't have to do that anymore.
You just got to, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes write the rule book over there. I don't believe Andy Reid is functioning as the head coach. That doesn't look anything.
No, it's all social media is totally is taking charge of that. Excuse me. Bucket Man was saying that there's a merger going on with the other league, the XFL. Is it XFL?
Yeah, the XFL and I think the USFL are joining together.
I'm sorry, if you want to laugh about that, remember the Broncos were in the AFL and everybody was laughing about the AFL. It would be refreshing to actually see technique come back into the football, but I don't know. I mean, in this day and age, social. How do you get away from the circus and just get back to football?
The Michigan and Alabama game, both of those teams running the ball, simplistic. The NFL makes college seem like it is such a complex game. No, Alabama and Michigan were running simplistic offense, simplistic defense, and it was a hell of a game that I just watched. Both teams ran the ball, and when they got cute, it didn't work, and then they went back to what was working. That's what won Michigan the game. They went back to what was working and ran the ball, and they ran it for a touchdown to win the game. And then, Alabama was running the ball long, and that's what put them in position to almost win that game against Michigan. But you don't see that. Even the receiver, I watched a receiver go up and make a hell of a play. The quarterback threw the ball, got batted at the line of scrimmage, high up in the air, and he jumps up, climbs the ladder, catches that ball, because if he didn't, they were going to intercept it and end the game right there. And you don't see that effort in the NFL. You don't see that. That was the closest thing that Julian Edelman or Wes Welker I've seen. And that was my first time really watching college football extensively. Oh, and you know what else you know what else you're not doing? You're not waiting for the referee to throw a flag every 5 seconds. They let them play in college football.
Yeah, okay, ref. Well, get the pass interference call going.
See a good defensive play in the NFL these days, you're just waiting. Wait, are they going to throw the flag? Or is there laundry on the field? No, they just let them play, and it was a damn good football game.
Well, and you go back to the Broncos. The problem is that this short winning streak that they had has produced a lot of misconceptions about the team. They don't realize that quarterbacks can read War and Peace, the opposing quarterback. They don't realize that because the holding calls aren't called, that they're still getting pushed back and they're still getting through. I mean, Russell Wilson wasn't completely responsible. He does hold on the ball at times, but those lines broke down even though they were holding most of the time. They need offensive line work, but they think they probably are fine. Defensive line work, they probably think they're fine. Their secondary is pathetic. I mean, Zap, right? Zap and Stick could both move the ball and through the air on that team.
Yeah, nobody knows. Yeah, they're not very good quarterbacks either. But if there was ever a wake-up call, I don't give a fuck if you beat the Chiefs. Who hasn't beat the Chiefs this year? Who hasn't? I mean, they're 9 right now. Who hasn't? Buffalo. Yeah. I mean, if you played Buffalo basically at the same exact timing you played the 49ers last year, at the perfect time where just nothing was going well. Looks like the offensive coordinator was the problem in Buffalo, because ever since they fired that guy, they've been doing what we're used to seeing out of Buffalo. But you guys are 8-9 with all the referee help. Let's put it into perspective. You're 8-9 probably. You're probably going to lose that game to the Raiders. Probably, right? Anything can happen. It's the NFL. So you're going to be 8-9. The best you'll do is 9-8. You're not in the playoffs. That's the worst spot you can be as a franchise. I would rather be 0-17 than be 9-8 and missing the playoffs, especially when you had a season where every star in the universe aligned for you, whether it was the easy schedule, whether it was referee help, whether it was 5+ turnovers in back-to-back games followed by 3+ turnovers in 3 consecutive games, whether it was 12 guys on the field in Buffalo on a game-losing kick that you missed, and a bunch of backup quarterbacks. Everything that could have fallen your way fell your way, and here you are sitting at 8-8. That's the best you can do. Could you save somebody all year? Could you imagine? I mean, you played Miami and you played Detroit. What happened?
This man actually picked this scenario to the T. He said there'll be 7-8, or I'm sorry, there'll be 8-9, 9-8 if the ball bounces their way, if they get backup quarterbacks, if everything that happened.
That's on my prediction for the season. Go watch my schedule prediction. I said,
yeah,
this is an impressive schedule, and if everything bounces your way, you're at best you'll be 8-9 or 9-8, and that's exactly where they're sitting.
Yeah, based off of all the breaks that they had. Yeah, and this is a team that needs a lot of breaks to even stay in the game. So, okay. So what we have ownership tying the rope around their own neck, hanging themselves. You've got the Elway trust people still that have offices. Why is anybody's guess? So it looks like it is going to be many years. You had some pseudo wins to give you false hope, false belief system. So it is going to be wait and see on the sea. We'll have a lot to say as things unfold. If nothing unfolds and it's business as usual, there'll be a lot to say about that. But it sounds like they're hell bent on running Russell Wilson out of town. Another quarterback casualty.
Yep. But I mean, we said that when the trade happened. We said that would happen.
What a deal for another team.
Yeah. Could you imagine being Pittsburgh? I mean, the place I've been saying he needs to go is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, I think he needs to go to the Raiders. He's got to go to the Raiders. He's got Raiders. Just for comedy, just for the pure, just for the irony of it all.
Or be the backup for Mahomes in Kansas City. But I think Pittsburgh, ideally for him to win, Pittsburgh, they run the ball well, and they can. I know Mike Tomlin will utilize him how he has to utilize him. He has the tight end talent to do so, and he has the defense to do so. That's the play.
If they won a Super Bowl with him?
No, I wouldn't be surprised if they won a Super Bowl with him. I mean, you're talking about a team.
Could you imagine what would Bronco country would all Bronco third world country would definitely implode.
Yeah, I mean, have you noticed this trend where we're gonna go each quarterback, right? Trevor Siemian, how do you look in New Orleans? He looked pretty good. How do you look in Denver? I mean, in Gary Kubiak's system, looked all right for that first year. 2018, how did Case Keenum look in Minnesota? Denver, was he better in Minnesota than he was?
It made no sense. That's when I started doing this. Is that whole bringing him in with it was just like Russell Wilson. There wasn't a system for him. There was the opposite system.
Makes sense. Then you have Joe Flacco. How's he looking? Did he look better or worse when he left Denver?
Better. He had better offensive linemen in front of him.
And he could be leading the Browns to the Super Bowl. Quite frankly, the only team I think that could have a shot against the Ravens are the Cleveland Browns if they play Browns football.
Without all the stupid finesse, fluffy stuff that they played the Broncos.
Yeah, if they play the way they've been playing for the last 3 weeks, I think that'd be a championship game. Both those teams are very similar and match up very well against each other. Did Drew Lock, how did he look when he started with Seattle after leaving Denver?
Yeah, back to what with Rich Gangarello. He looked.
Did you see at the end when they were interviewing him how he looked like you see a guy who had no hope, lost all his confidence, everything, and then when he led that game-winning drive, it all came back to him, and you see hope on the horizon for him. That is the product of leaving Denver.
Yeah, the toxicity here is through the roof. We've been saying that for a long time. This place has turned into a toxic waste dump.
The most positive guy, Russell Wilson, looks like he got hit by a bus this last week. Look at him in his interviews. The guy is down in the dumps right now. I mean, for you guys to be so toxic that you bring a guy like Russell Wilson, who's the glass isn't halfway full, it's full even when it's empty, kind of optimistic down to the dumps is absolutely insane.
Well, but it's par for the course here.
Yep.
It's par for the course. Well, so he had a 20 TDs to 3. I don't think it was 3, but it was pretty low, 20 to 8 or something like that. And some of those INTs are with Russell Wilson. He's never been an INT kind of guy, so that's not unusual. His problem is the sack fumble is his issues. And we broke. The thing is we broke Russell Wilson football down. He is what he is. He's not going to see receivers a lot of times. He's going to hang on to the football, but if he was starting to work the pocket. He was getting to be more what he needs to be, not running around with the chicken unless necessary, absolute necessary. If he could get the ball out quick, he was really good. Like those 2-point conversions you said, anytime he could actually get the ball out quick, he actually played pretty good. So it's with Russell, it was,
up and down.
Serviceable. He was serviceable. He's more the best offensive line.
Most consistent one that you've had in a while, and you're getting. I mean, I don't know. I really don't, but I mean, what I'm hoping this is it's the beginning of a reset, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that what this means is just the first domino to fall, and the rest will fall in the off season. Only time will tell.
Well, if they're going to give it to Sean Payton, and we'll see. Sean Payton brings his own set of problems too. Sean Payton isn't a guy that historically likes to rebuild, but they gave him all this money, and if he wants all this power, I just he's shot himself in the foot, running his mouth like with the Nathaniel Hackett thing, yelling at Russell Wilson on the sideline, and because he didn't do that with Breeze, and it just a lot of bad optics, Word is the locker room's divided. I'm sure a lot of the old Elway, those people most definitely don't like Sean Payton because they're not getting the Elway preferential treatment. So
they're not running the offense like they were with Nathaniel Hackett.
No.
I mean, they were the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator. They were the owner, the head coach, everything.
Yeah.
Sean, it all depends. Like, will that work if you're going to put Sean Payton as another Elway? No. If you're going to be in the spot. But I think the story going into the offseason this year is what will the Broncos do? Is the ownership going to clear house, or is it going to be another situation of what we've seen for the last 8 years? Blame Russell Wilson. Same next year.
Yeah.
Are you going to have someone next year? Like, what's your plan at quarterback if you get rid of Russell Wilson? I know Stidham's not going to be the long-term option. And if he is, good luck with that. I don't think he's very good in Sean Payton's system either. He's just as serviceable as Russell Wilson, but you're in the same spot anyway. So are you going to draft someone who's in the draft that's going to fit his offense? So I'm hearing a lot of Bo Nix, who's another run-around quarterback. I mean, he's decent in the pocket, but I want a pro quarterback. I don't want Mahomes. I don't want Cam Newton. I don't want a Lamar Jackson. I want an NFL-style quarterback who sits in the pocket and gets rid of the ball quickly, sees the field. And that's what Sean Payton needs. So what are you going to do? I mean, you had
the ball off.
Had that with Simeon. I mean, I don't know. This team is too much. But we'll see what goes on in the offseason. I expect them to lose to the Raiders. If you guys win and go 9-8, you already know what we're going to hear. Oh, my gosh, we're above 500. And that'll
false hope.
False hope. And next,
you're going to hear. Do you realize we could have been 13-3? Because we're in the. Do you realize we could be business? It's like Mike Shanahan all over again.
Yep.
Did you like my Jeff Fisher? You like all my Jeff Fisher stuff I send you?
Yeah, it's going to be just one more win, and John Elway will get his 9 finally. So.
Yeah.
This is the perfect season for the front office. The worst if you actually know football and actually want to see the team succeed, because those wins set you back a couple years. If these wins, you guys better hope that those win streaks that happen, you better hope that wasn't enough to convince ownership to not pull the trigger on firing this front office, because you don't want them making.
Well, they should be gone, especially if you're going after Russell Wilson. That for that contract, they just should go. Yep. I mean, Ellis isn't here, but there's still somebody with an office.
Yeah, some shadows. But you guys can hate on us in the comments, but it's pretty accurate the whole time. I mean, it's played out like clockwork.
Getting more dismal at the end of every season. Even with more wins, it's even more dismal.
Yeah,
that's the ironic thing about this.
The worst season in Broncos history because of, the false hope that's created. I mean, all that does is give the front office that's made all these terrible decisions more negotiating space when they're in the front office getting fired. Hey, just give us 2 more years and we could bring this and this and this here, and we'll be going to the promised land, kind of like they've been doing. I'm pretty sure what's happening is John Elway, he's a smooth talker, right? He's like, look at me, I've been on a winning team. I know football. I've won a Super Bowl. I know how to build that culture. And he's probably sweet talking these owners in the office, and they're probably buying into it because they themselves don't know anything about.
They're the ones that handed them this stinky contract. They didn't want. They wanted Russell Wilson to and that could have been it too. I mean, they could have probably said, "You could talk him. You could. Oh, I know we did it, but we'll talk him into restructure. No, we'll talk him into restructure." He's not going to restructure.
No, he's not.
He had a no trade clause for a reason. That was set up in 2019 by him and his agent. What I thought it was, the no trade, I thought that had to do with Seattle, but it wasn't. That had to do with Russell Wilson. Him and his agent put in the no trade clause. That means if you want me to go there, I can pick the deal I want because they're going to offer me the extension. If you don't offer me an extension, I'm going to stay where I'm at. There was no reason for him not to go without an extension. And you know, Elway, he wants his has-beens, his retreads. He wants the big splash move. And you saw he gave Russell Wilson everything. The front office, his own chef, the whole 9 yards. He gave it all to him. So there's no doubt in my mind that he just handed a blank sheet of paper to Russell Wilson, and his agent wrote up a contract. That's what they did in 2019 in Seattle. His agent wrote up the contract. Okay, this is in the can. We'll sign. We'll have Ellis. Ellis had the authority to sign off on it as a behalf of the trust. And when the new owners came in, they were obligated by contract because they had to honor all the contracts, all of them.
Yep.
And that includes Russell Wilson's too. There was no way out of that. I'm sure they had all kinds of lawyers come over that, and they're like, you're stuck with this because by signing on the dotted line to own the Denver Broncos, you took all the debt. You took and you're good for it. The NFL said, yep, you got a good line of credit. You can go pay for all these contracts, including that guy for $250 million. August rolls around and they said, oh, here's that $250 million. Now, and I wrote to this in the comment because people are like, we don't get it. We don't. You're wrong. And all this. No. When in 2019 he wrote that in the contract. Okay, there's just no way that he's going to let that go without being in. The press asked both George Payton, Ellis, Russell Wilson about that no trade clause, and they were ambiguous. They never gave an answer to it. They just said, well, he just wants to go to the Broncos. I just want to go to the Broncos. Well, that's no answer. That didn't answer the question. They brokered the deal in March.
I think, yeah, there was a verbal agreement on the phone that we will give you this extension if you come here. So
no, it was signed. They had to sign it. It had to be signed. All that had to be signed before Russell Wilson went. All that had to be signed. All those agreements had to be made.
Oh yeah, so basically when the trade happened, there was no option to not give him that contract. Basically,
well, Elway wasn't going to do that. He gave him everything, including the kitchen sink, the chef, the office, everything.
He probably let him borrow his car, gave him partial ownership in a steakhouse. I mean, God.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole trade is the biggest blunder in Broncos history and maybe sports history.
I mean, sports history. It didn't make any sense.
No, it did. I mean, we'll say that you're not paying Russell Wilson this amount. We'll ignore the contract part, say that doesn't exist, and we'll just focus on the football aspects. Nathaniel Hackett's offense, does that fit what Russell Wilson does? Say he even got to run his offense in Denver. No. He probably would have been more flexible in his scheme in allowing Russell Wilson to do Russell Wilson things than a Sean Payton who's set in his ways and set in his system. But either way, that didn't match either. Okay, well, Sean Payton, you need to bring in another coach. Shouldn't you be trying to bring in someone who's going to, fit what Russell Wilson does because you're stuck with him? No, let's bring in Sean Payton. So, I mean, what are they doing at the end of the day? So you're going to pay this guy how many million, like $80 million next year to sit at home or play for another team? Because they're probably going to not pay him anything, and you're going to pay everything for him to go play somewhere else, and probably most likely be more successful somewhere else.
His agent is probably already wheeling and dealing behind the scenes.
Yeah, Russell Wilson's probably on the phone with like 3 other teams right now. Has some secret. That's the way Russell Wilson operates. He's a smart guy, but I mean, I think, and I also here's where I will blame Russell Wilson. You had it made in Seattle. You had an offense tailored to your talents. You had a system tailored to your talents, player personnel tailored to your talents, a good defense, and a stable, not dysfunctional organization. And you played your role. And you played.
Well, in 2018, they tried to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And then they redid his contract in 2019, which that was a part of the Seattle end of the deal, the 2 years that's left on that. That $140 million.
Then Russell Wilson starts the whole let Russ cook garbage, and he wants to be the next Mahomes. He wants to be the main character.
Well, that's what the Elway people want. They think that he's Shermer. They think he's Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
He's going to throw 20. He's just going to take the top off. He's not that type of a quarterback. He has some throws that are like that, But it isn't just, bombs away football. It's just not who he is.
And why do you want to play bombs away football? I mean,
Low percentage football.
yeah, if you just play bombs away football a game, that's what leads to sloppy, low scoring games because they're low percentage throws.
Yeah, 3 and outs. 3 and outs. It's very low third down convert. You're in third and long a lot.
Yeah. How did the Patriots move the ball when they were good? I always reflect Brady, 3 yards, he'll get 3 yards after the carry. Third down, 3 yards after the catch. Third down and 6, you literally that's what the Patriots offense was ran on. Take what the defense gives you. The Broncos want to play greatest show on turf football, low percentage throws, third and longs. It'll be 3rd and 3 and they're throwing the ball to the end zone. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I think that's why Kansas City is clunking along because it's sputtering.
Yeah, they're still trying to play the greatest show on turf, and you don't have a Tyreek Hill.
No,
you don't have the player personality. You don't even have the offensive line you had in 2018.
No.
I mean, Andy Reid is not in control of his team right now, and that's showing.
No, yeah, no, he's. Yeah.
I mean, ever since he left, that offense has looked way less disciplined. So you guys have a lot of problems over there in Kansas City, and who knows how long Andy Reid's going to put up with that.
But yeah, I mean, Wilson could end up in as a Steeler. I mean, what a deal for the Steelers to not have to pay. They pay a minimal wage.
Yeah, and the Broncos will pay him to perform there. And how funny would it be if they're? I mean, the Steelers. You want to talk about being a quarterback away? That's the only thing holding Pittsburgh back right now. They have the defense, the run game. They have the talent in the receiving core. They have a lot of tight end talent. They need the quarterback who could deliver the ball to the talent. And that's what the Steelers can do. I mean, the Russell Wilson and the Steelers need each other. I mean, that's perfect. And I really hope that happens. And I hope Denver pays the bill for it to happen too.
I just think it'd be funny if he went to the Raiders. I don't think it'll happen, but it would be the irony of ironies.
The irony, it'd be irony if the Steelers pulled out a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson and Denver the bill for it too.
And Denver flips the bill for it. Thank you, John Elway. Yeah.
Thanks, John Elway, and
the new owner.
the new ownership showing their great business, experience. Let's blackmail someone in the NFL. That's awesome. Real smart.
Yeah, it's strange. I just thought, you're kidding. When you guys were saying that, I'm like, it just sounds like some talk somebody. But I wasn't the only one. Other people were saying, is this real?
I think Justin Simmons is on his way out next year.
That'd be nice.
You notice that they haven't been talking about him or showing him as much anymore at the end of the season. His interviews are cut short. I think he's on his way out too.
That's good. Can he take Josie Jewell and
can you take Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton? Can you take
Locke?
PJ Locke?
Yeah, PJ Locke.
That guy's garbage. I would take him over Simmons though. I would take.
Now he's not as he's gone downhill.
So
yeah, has ruined him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of two ways. Are they gonna fire everybody at the end of the season? Like, is this the first domino to fall, or is it just business as usual? I have a feeling it's gonna be the ownership is gonna take charge this offseason. I think this is where they're gonna let it all hang out this offseason. They're gonna let people go, and they're gonna rebuild it their way, whether it's the right way or the wrong.
Different.
They're gonna put it their way next year. It's not gonna be I think what they did is they sat there and they observed how the business is running. They were obviously pissed off about that contract first thing when they got there, and I think these front office people know they're on their way out. So
I would hope so. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how they broker their own deals. So I didn't realize this was an egg on their lap. But
this next 2 months be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, can you really build? That's a question too. Is how can you build a team around Russell Wilson when the coach doesn't? The systems clash. And that's what we said at the very beginning. That just with Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett was obviously brought there to bring in Aaron Rodgers. That's all they would talk about. Then it was the Nathaniel Hackett, remember Quinn? What do you mean? And yeah, then what do you mean, Russell Wilson? Not Aaron Rodgers? Energy. He brings the energy. That was all. We're going to see offense like we've never seen it before.
He brings that young like what is the obsession with young head coach? I mean, just Mike McDaniel and Sean McVay are the only exception, really. But you saw the experience gap with John Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel this weekend. I mean, the Ravens are probably running away with it. They've been the only team this year that's consistent week in and week out and doesn't screw the pooch when they play. So I will say that the Ravens are probably going to win it this year. But every time I say something about a team being consistent, the next week they go and I just said something a few weeks ago about Dallas and
they lay an egg.
They laid an egg.
Yeah, nobody's consistent. Nobody's consistent. Not even with all the help that they get offensively.
Yeah, I mean, you have the Broncos defensive line right here, the most undersized unit in the NFL. They're so small. I mean, Nick Bonito is a tiny defensive line. He really.
Yeah, where are these guys? Baron Browning, where is this guy? Where are these people? I'm supposed to cheerlead this stuff. I mean, how?
Yeah,
there's a guy. When I watched a guy named Rich Tombstone Jackson, and he was no Nick Bonito. I'll just put it that way. He was special.
Take their size. I mean, look at DeMarcus Ware compared to DeMarcus Ware to Nick Bonito. I mean, Nick Bonito's the size of an inside. I mean, he's too small for his position. He really is, and he's also not. Say he's small. He's not fast. He's not quick. He doesn't really have any moves coming off the edge. He gets one play a game when he's unblocked.
He gets plays when he's unblocked.
But I mean, your most consistent pass rusher on the edge is Jonathan Cooper, and even he's too slow.
That's the guy that has to get held. They have to hold him all the time. He always gets held.
Yeah.
No flats, mostly.
Probably on his way out, too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, anybody that's worth 2 cents is out the door. But that was primarily the old regime. So, yeah, I think that when we do these videos next, I guess, we just have to wait for the off season to really.
Headline of the off season. I mean, we could do a season review next week after the game, but they already know what we're going to say. You know, this was a season of every star aligning for you, and the best you could do was 8-9 or 9-8. I mean,
that's
doesn't make a difference.
That's how I'm going to headline this video we're doing. I'm just going to say it was the best worst season we had.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the same game week in and week out. The defense. I mean, watching it on film on the All 22, I'm getting pissed off because I'm like, when people talk about how great Mahomes is, I'm like, really? When you watch that Broncos versus Chiefs, the Chiefs receivers, they don't have a receiver problem. They have a Mahomes not reading the field problem.
It looked like, I'm going to say it, it looked like Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
But he can't read the field out there.
Yeah, Russell Wilson and Mahomes are the same quarterback, except I would probably say Mahomes is a little better from the pocket than Russell Wilson. Just a little bit, but not much, but little noticeably different. And he can also run faster for now until the age gets to him. Then what's he going to do when his legs go? I mean,
yeah.
Stidham, I believe, next year, Bronco fans, get ready for a lot of holding next year because they're going to throw
we saw a preview of that this last game.
Yeah. So, yeah, you get the same, statistical performance from Stidham as you do Russell Wilson. What you're going to notice next year is on that big play, called back for a loss of 10. I'm just like with Drew Lock. When Drew Lock would have a good play, holding, Garrett Bowles, march it back.
Did you see Quinn Miners was called holding, and they showed Garrett Bowles holding?
Yeah.
So what's this guy doing?
Where every offensive lineman was holding, every single offensive lineman was holding, every single one of them.
Yeah.
Every single. I gotta find that play because I was watching that a few weeks back. I was like, holy shit! Every single offensive lineman is holding right now. 2 of them are clotheslining someone.
Yeah. No call. There was no flag. Russell Wilson was in there. The politics was taking over.
Yeah, I just watched the Alabama game and I felt like I was watching I felt like I was in a time machine for the NFL last year. And college football, you're not getting ref ball, you're getting football.
Well, coaching them properly.
Yep, biggest stage in sports, right? The college football semifinal, one of the bigger stages in sports. I actually got to watch football decide the outcome, not referee decide the outcome like last year in the Super Bowl.
Or how many Super Bowls have we seen like that?
Yeah. It wasn't a defensive stop, turned into a winning. We should have a stat for that. How many? Who leads the league in game-winning penalties? That should be a stat too, since we're doing next-gen stats. How many game-winning penalties? Looks like the Cowboys had one the other day.
Just can't make it up. Detroit, yeah, the Detroit game.
Yeah, embarrassing.
You didn't see that in the college.
Nope. In the college game, I saw no flags. I saw pure football. I think there was one block in the back call the entire half I watched. And that's it. There was no. Even the offensive line play was better. Holy shit! These players are actually blocking. They're not holding. There wasn't one player I was like holding. When you're watching the Broncos every play, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
That's a clothesline. Well, yeah. I was watching the Chargers holding Cooper about every other play.
They wanted revenge for when the Broncos were holding Mac last game every play.
Oh yeah. Oh, he was pissed. Oh, he was calling the rep all the time, saying like, I showed the same thing I showed with the Lions too. The Lions were like I said, what is it with this team that if they're such a great offensive line, why is everybody like with their hands up like this?
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the next domino that falls in Dove Valley is. Hopefully, to be optimistic, it means there's more falling off season. So if that happens, cover that. But back to the business as usual for this front office, we'll also be there to cover that and let you know what your. Because then you're going to be stuck for who knows how long. Another 8 years of the same shit.
Yeah.
What are we? Years of mediocrity, and then they figure it out. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But heads don't roll this off season. Your future's not very bright. So.
No. All right. Anything else?
No, I think we covered everything. We're all set.
Yep. The Denver Broncos had their best worst season this year.
The best worst season. That's a good way to put it. The best worst season. The best worst season.
The best worst season.
Worst for the fans. Front office is about to. I really want the Raiders to win just so they cannot get that silver lining. Above 500.
Yeah. Do you realize we could have been 13-3? Right? Yeah.
I really want to be like, you guys really had all the help from the referees, 12 men on the field, and you're still below 500. I want to say that so bad. Because I think the thing that pisses me off more than the front office is this fan base. They're so delusional.
Well, what is it they hear? They hear these content creators blowing crap up their ass. There's so many of them, and just lying through their teeth. It's just.
You have AI content creators that aren't even real people.
I know. I sent you that too. I know.
Yeah, they have AI content creators who, like robots, making these videos. So soon you guys are going to be out of job. They're going to have free.
I thought that too. Yeah.
My Broncos Avenue better count their lucky pennies. So.
Yeah, and the huddle because Sports Illustrated came out with their AI bots. So.
All right. Yep. The best ever.
The best worst season ever. Yeah.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Hey.